Hey, everybody, welcome. Hunt Club Podcast, Cyber Minds Edition. I'm super excited about this one. I got two special guests, legends in cybersecurity of their own right, network security, two CEOs. I'm brown nosing now. Hitesh Sheth, CEO of Vectra AI, Marty Roesch, CEO of Netography, now head of cloud at Vectra AI. Welcome, Marty, Hitesh.
Thank you, Voj.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, both of you. This is going to be fun. Last week, we made an announcement. Vectra AI made an announcement on acquiring Netography and bringing Marty and team on board. Super pumped about that. I want to talk a little bit about the why and the what behind that, and where you guys see as leaders in cyber and network security and our favorite network detection and response and the evolution of that technology, and kind of just banter with you guys about what you see here and where we're taking this. So Hitesh, I'll let you kind of kick us off and kind of intro and talk a little bit about the why behind this.
Yeah, no, thanks, Voj, and it's it really is such fun and an honor, honestly, to have Marty and his team be part of Vectra AI now. Look, I think every time you combine forces, there are really, I'll say, two things need to be very true. One, do you have a shared vision of where you think you can take both the combined technologies as well as, but most importantly, in service of customers? And then do you have a shared culture about how you go about doing that? And I think I can say that in this case, I feel extremely confident that we have both a shared vision and a shared culture with Netography and Vectra. So I think that this is why, in so many ways, this is such a right fit. And look, what drove us to do this? Marty and I have been chatting about how we can combine forces for a few months. One name I should just toss in the middle there is a gentleman by the name of Art Coviello. Those in our listening audience, if you don't know what Art is, Art used to be the chairman of RSA Security. And in security current circles, he's actually truly a legend. So you've been kind enough to call Marty and I. Marty is. You've been good enough to call me, but I can tell you Art definitely is. And then Art was is with Sin Ventures, one of the investors in Marty's company, and he was key in getting us together. And look, and from the Vectra point of view, we have a couple of foundational pillars that drive our business. One is our view that enterprise is going to be hybrid forever, and that has never been more true than nowadays, especially as companies invest in data center capacity to service AI. And really, at the end of the day, there's only one way to secure the inside of those environments, and that is with NDR. And I think as hopefully everybody in the audience knows, we achieved a really stellar position in the Gartner NDR MQ, and a big reason for that is our view that the modern network has changed dramatically. It spans the entire hybrid enterprise, from the private data center to identity to SaaS applications to multi-cloud. And IoT, OT devices, and before we forget, endpoints actually run on networks too.
Yep.
And so when you think about how you're going to ultimately make that vision of providing, and I'll just kind of use the term hybrid NDR for the hybrid enterprise, and you think about different data types, and we'll get to that in a minute. It made all the sense in the world to combine forces in Netography.
Yeah, I love that. I love the gelling of cultures, right, and philosophies and approaches and visions. Marty, you and I would argue missions too as well, and we'll get into that a little bit. But Marty, you've got quite an interesting background and kind of how you shaped Netography. Talk to us a little bit about kind of what shaped you and brought Netography to life, and kind of what you're excited about relative to this combined forces, as Hitesh put it.
Yeah. Well, as you know, I've been working in detection and response basically since I was a kid. Uh, the first lines of Snort were laid down about 27 years ago, working on the detection problem initially, and then eventually into the response problem as well. The way that we kind of figured out to do it back then, and things have evolved over the decades, literally decades since then. But it's really fascinating because it's kind of this evergreen problem because the world continues to evolve. You've got this, the evolution from kind of my computer to our network to our hybrid multi-cloud plus on-prem OT/IT environment now that still requires, the fundamental capability to understand what you've got and what it's doing and what's happening to it. And the network level is, one of the primary places to do it. If you want to go all the way back to really basic basics, you think about the world of computing and security. What we're really doing is we're brokering and modulating access between users, applications, data, and devices, with the substrate of all of those interactions happening is the network. So the network is a prime place to instrument and defend. And it really requires us to have, kind of always fresh thinking about how we do it. So I did a lot of work, obviously, around signature-driven detection and deterministic detection back in the day, and some of the initial work on bringing context to the party and stuff like that. And SourceWire I got acquired by Cisco, and we went down the NGFW path. And about the time that was happening is when companies like Vectra were being founded, with kind of a similar thesis, but a different way of going about it, saying, hey, what if we apply AI to these problems and started looking at them as composites of actions across the environment, or composites of how these interactions are working and things like that. So fast forward to when Netography was founded, when we said, hey, these hybrid multi-cloud environments that everybody has these days are actually really hard to defend using just packet-based approaches, or just one approach or another approach. What if we took a different level of thinking about harvesting metadata from the infrastructure itself, living off the land, so to speak, about the activities and the context of the environment, and then built a detection platform on top of that. So we went down that road in Netography, and Vectra has so much of the same kind of thesis of detection that we were going after. It just seemed like, we figured out a lot of the multi-cloud, like anywhere, anytime, low friction, high scale analytics in the cloud platform. And Vectra just had this incredible set of AI-driven capabilities in the actual detection backend that has been built. So it just made all the sense in the world to bring them together.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you both talked about the notion of the modern network, right? Hybrid, multi-cloud, and you both talked about the complexity of it and how difficult it is to defend. Talk a little bit about why is it such a difficult, complex thing to defend?
Look, I'll make a couple of comments, and then Marty, please jump in as well. Listen, at the end of the day, when we think about attack surfaces inside the enterprise, we look at this and we identify 6 primary attack surfaces, right? The data center itself. You've got the public cloud in all its glory, and you've got SaaS applications. You've got identity. You've got endpoint. Then increasingly AI itself is an attack surface. So I always kind of looked at the cat and mouse game of detection response as an end-by-end permutational problem. Mm-hmm. Right? You're going to have an endless number of opportunities to break in. Endless. So the 2 things you can do to find a way to ensure that you've got some degree of control or a large degree of control over this. One, do you have the right detection and response capability that can catch the attack as it's happening? Because you're not going to stop it. But the other thing you absolutely got to find a way to do is, have you built the right resiliency inside the infrastructure? Because again, it's an end-by-end permutational opportunity to break in, but you can do something about resilience overall. You can do something to ensure that, hey, detection response is fully served correctly. And in there, I think there's Marty is a really nice, clever, succinct way of capturing why network is so important. So I'll let him do that. And in our version of that, I think as I think our listeners should know, and certainly I know what you know, is we always said the truth is in the packet.
Yeah.
You can mess around with all the data types, but you cannot screw around with the packet. Packet is the packet. And if you can kind of harness the evidence out of that, that is the best source of truth to get to the answers you want.
Yeah. Marty?
Yeah.
Hitesh teed you up.
Yeah. Well, and that's exactly right. All the way back in the early days, it was very apparent that the one thing you couldn't really horse around very much with was the evidence of the traffic on the network itself, because there was nothing to really modify. And yeah, there's some tricks you can try to play, but realistically, in actual practical application, the packets are the packets, the flows are the flows. The evidence that's on the network is always going to be true. So it's a great place to attack the problem. And I think, one of the interesting things about, I have, I would say, at least nuanced, maybe jaundiced view of the march of technology in the security world and the larger technology world that is built on top of over the past 30 years. And, you see technology after technology after technology prop up, and we never get good at securing the last set of technology. We just build a new layer on top of it, and then we build a new layer on top of that. So, you have very frequently what you end up with is delivering the same capabilities over and over again in different form factors to solve the same problems that you didn't solve the last time. So it's this really interesting kind of world that we live in, where there's always opportunity because people are always coming up with new ways to, a better mousetrap on the one hand, but on the other hand, you still got all these security concerns. So as we get smarter and better and think more about it, we have more compute and more things like cloud scale databases and stuff like that, or cloud scale data management platforms, really, where we can start asking and answering questions that we couldn't before because the technology is now available to do it. I think that's where things get interesting and where the opportunities for consolidation happen, like we're doing here, bringing Vectra and Netography together, as well as the opportunities to kind of try to get ahead of the game. And I'm very excited and interested to see how we bring these things together, because we got a plan, so now we have to execute on it, and plans are interesting things, how they evolve.
Yeah, definitely. You said a phrase there that I want to pick both of your brains about. What does it mean to get ahead of the game? We talk a lot about Hitesh, you talked a lot about post-compromise. They're going to find their way in. All right. They're going to get on your network. The truth's on the packet, right? Detecting them as quickly as possible. That's where the beauty of this relationship and this combination of these two forces come together. But beyond that, what's next? Like, what do you see in terms of like getting ahead of it? What does that look like?
Yeah. Look, I think from the very early days of Vectra, one of the things that was always at the back of my mind was that, okay, how close can you get to building a predictive system? And predictive systems are incredibly hard to pull off. But one of the core underpinnings of that are observability frameworks. Mm-hmm. And if you've got that in place, if you've got the ability to see things before an attack is happening, you've got a way to understand your environment better. You've got a way to inventory your environment better. And you can do all that, automatically without, the SOC having to intervene. Then you're on the path to, dealing with the pre-scenario.
Yeah.
And I think this is a critical way for helping our customers getting ahead. And then honestly, that was a critical aspect when Marty and I are chatting about combining forces. Like, Netography has built a really powerful, scalable observability platform, in addition to what they do on the detection response side with flow logs. And we felt that that's a critical underpinning to fulfill Vectra's mission of doing both the pre and post for our customers.
Yeah, for sure. The ability, I coined actually talking to Oliver, our CTO, when we were still kind of brainstorming on bringing the companies together, talking about, coining this term software-defined observability, which is what I think that Netography really ended up, that is the core of what we developed here. And the interesting thing about it, so, I can't tell you over over my career, how many times I've gone into a conference room with a customer or a prospect and heard the words, "Why is that still on our network?" Or "I thought we got rid of that," or "That why is that firewall rule not working?" Or so on and so forth. All the things, there's a big difference between what you think is happening and what's actually happening. And that's been, kind of all the way back in the early Snort days. We always found that, like, people's idea of what their networks were like versus what they were actually like were like radically different things. And if you have the ability to be able to see and inform people about what their networks are actually like, how they're actually changing, how that thing actually did not get taken out of service, how you didn't actually patch that vulnerability that is exposed to the internet, that just has tremendous value all by itself. And to your point, we don't have to detect the attacks if we can make it so that you can't be attacked in the first place. So yeah, there's so much there, and the observability thing helps tremendously with that, especially being able to do it kind of very broadly at scale in a way that is relatively frictionless for the customers to get their hands around, because that just makes it more possible, and like getting roadblocks out of people's ways so they can be successful is almost something that we don't really talk a lot about in security, but I think it's really important.
Yeah, I think that, it's a perfect marriage of like observability and like at Vectra, we've hanged our hat on delivering the most accurate attack signal at speed and scale. So the clarity. So when you think about combining observability and clarity and the magic that can happen when you do that, both to your points, post-compromise, first and foremost, when the attacker's already in, but what can you do with observability and the principles of clarity pre-compromise, preemptive defense, proactive defense, and how does the SOC begin to shift, and balance their investments, their time, their energy, their whatnot, both proactive and reactive. Now, you guys talk to a lot of customers, right? A lot of CISOs, and they're constantly balancing risk, cost, technology, business needs from the line of business. Like, how are those conversations? How do you navigate those? What's the role of kind of how you've defined the modern NDR as this observability clarity combo pre-post compromise? What does that mean for that CISO who's trying to balance risk and cost?
Yeah. Look, I'll talk about the dimension that made this whole relationship in Netography so attractive. I'll talk about our experience, right? When we standalone Vectra AI before Netography, when we sit there and talk about how they're going to get a handle on cyber attacks in the public cloud, right? And what is it they can do to instrument their security framework to do that well? And and I think from a Vectra standpoint, we could deliver a pretty robust control plane answer for them. And but the truth be told, we had a very tough time, getting the data plane side right, and it is certainly not for lack of effort. The cloud providers have, to various degrees, promised and to various degrees delivered on virtual tapping, as an example, and in pretty much every instance where they've delivered that, it's been both expensive and cumbersome to operationalize. And then, we have gone down the agent path ourselves, and we have looked at, deploying agent-based solutions to our customers, and those have proven to be pretty complex to operationalize. Not to mention that, customers, generally speaking, hate the idea of yet another agent anywhere, right? But those were the tools that we were staring at, and then, when you think about what that means for risk for the CISO, when I'd sit and talk to them, I would get this repeated like, hey, you guys are addressing control plane. You have done the data plane in the data center. You need to have an answer for the data plane in the cloud, right? For us to make sure that our risk profile is managed correctly.
Yeah.
And so listen, we internally were absolutely looking at flow logs, DNS logs, to see if there's a way to bridge the gap here. And there's a choice between doing something organic, and that takes its own cycle, or ultimately, finding a great partner to combine with. And in this case, Netography made all the sense in the world. So long-winded way of saying, I think today, I walk back into the CISO, we together have a pretty powerful platform where when we sit and talk about their risk exposure for detection and response and starting to address the breach scenarios, right, they can further reduce their risk profile. I think they've got a far more powerful answer. And I would go to the mat and say, today we can do this compared to better than any other vendor.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, objectively, I know we cannot invite our customers and all this stuff, but I would literally go like, who else is going to give you a multi-cloud data center, identity, SaaS, and fully integrated with the leading endpoint providers, a single platform that ties it all together?
Yeah.
Maybe I'm a little biased, Voj. I don't know, but I don't think I am.
Yeah. Realization
I
of
agree.
vision, Marty. Like
Yeah, I agree.
100%. Nothing to add. I'm sure you can. I'm sure you've got insight onto that in addition to Hitesh.
Oh yeah, sure. I have war stories certainly. The thing. So when we were looking at getting Netography started, one of the things that I thought was really critical as we were going to market was like friction, just the friction of deployment and kind of the ongoing cost. So I've talked about this concept of externalities in security for a while. And externalities are things like, you've got a coal-fired power plant in Kansas and how you get acid rain in the Appalachians as a result of that. Well, in security, externalities are things like, well, you've got a piece of software that requires constant updates, like every Microsoft Tuesday, or you've got something that's generating a bunch of spam events. Here's a bunch of stuff that you've got to dig through. The false positive problem, things like that. So they're kind of two sides of the same coin, where you've got the other externality of well, I've decided I've got to deploy this, and now I've got to fly this piece of hardware in, and I've got to plumb it and get it turned on and all this other stuff. So one of the things that we were really interested in at Netography was coming up with a very low friction, low externality offering to put in front of people, because the more friction and the more externalities there are in a system, the more limited its deployments are going to be, because the costs go up for a number of reasons, not just the intrinsic cost of the tech itself, but all the exogenous costs of the surrounding things that are required to make it go. So this was, to some degree, not just an exercise to see if we could put together this system that can do all the things that it does, but also like, how can we do it in a way that like tries to minimize that burn path, you might say, of and I just invented that of things that are in the way of people being successful. And if you could do it, you could probably do it at a much broader scale, which means people are going to get much better utilization, much better coverage. And that's gonna fill the gaps, right? Attackers live in the gaps. Let's get rid of the gaps. And one of the ways you get rid of the gaps is by making it so easy to deploy and so light on the users to get it to do things that are valuable, that they want to deploy it everywhere, right? So that's the kind of the trick, and doing it at scale in concert with Netography or Vectra, that has a bunch of it has a broad set of customers already, and this problem to solve in the data plane in the cloud data center. I just I think it's great, and it's going to be a powerful combination to bring all these things together and offer them to customers.
Yeah, you guys, we talked about quite a bit on this episode. We talked through this perfect marriage of observability and clarity. You guys touched on, for the CISO, operational, sounds like simplicity, like frictionless, remove the friction, make it, one of the biggest deal killers is, hey, you add operational complexity to this, it's a no-go, right? Balancing that operational efficiency gains with risk reduction, right? All of these things are, Hitesh, you wanted to say something? Go ahead.
All I was going to simply say is I would very much add in attack surface coverage.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, for the first time, you've got a single integrated platform that can deliver everything on-prem, apps, identity, and multi-cloud.
What does it all add up to? Attack surface coverage, observability across that, attack signal clarity, operational simplicity. I'm looking for a word, and I want to see if you guys say it. What does it mean for the SOC, for the security team, for the business?
Marty, go.
I'm not sure. I'm trying to.
There's probably not a wrong answer, but
I'm trying to think of the word that Woj is going for here. Didn't know we were going to
pre
play,
and post compromise.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, it's it's a really comprehensive, fully scoped approach to pre and post compromise activity, and that's a real mouthful. So the marketing team's going to hate that one. But yeah, I could probably come up with some sort of 2 or 3 word way of saying that. I just got to think about it.
You guys actually use the word I'm looking for through the course of the conversation, which is just like, at the end of the day, and Hitesh, you just said it like in your last, your last part of the conversation. I think at the end of the day, these guys are looking for like resilience, right? The ability to see and stop attacks, both pre and post compromise, as quickly and easily and cost effectively and efficiently as possible. And AI is, like we've argued this, Hitesh, like the AI is the only way to do that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So in that vein, like, again, let's look ahead a little bit. And I like to kind of end these podcast episodes with 3 things. And I'd love to hear you guys, based on this conversation, even outside of this, 3 things, you could call them 3 reasons why Vectra AI plus Netography, modern NDR for the modern enterprise, hybrid, multi-cloud, et cetera. 3 things you want listeners to walk away with.
Yeah.
Hitesh, you go first.
Please.
Or Marty,
you want to go first? Okay. Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay, I'll go first. 3 things to walk away with. Well, number 1, bringing the power of Vectra plus Netography together is going to bring people capabilities that they're currently getting from a number of vendors all together under one roof. And this is kind of one of the big problems and arguments for this kind of approach. Big problems that people have where they're delivering the same capabilities over and over again in different form factors to solve the same problem in these different diverse environments. So I think we are going to consolidate that. I think that the ability to bring predictive security to people's environments is probably something people aren't expecting from people and companies that have been dealing with detection and response. But quite frankly, I would say in a lot of ways, we're the people who best understand what leads to compromise, what gets you in trouble where the detection technology has to do its job. And a lot of times it's just things you don't know about, misconfigurations or drifting configurations. And we can see all of that. So I think that's going to be a big thing that people should take away, is that the combination of this is going to lead in directions that you maybe don't expect. And I think as a resilience platform, to coin a phrase, I think that we are going to give people the ability to weather these compromises that they inevitably will face. No matter how competent a job that you do, you're always going to have surprises. Giving people the ability to scope, contain, and remediate in a post-compromise environment as rapidly as possible is something that's really high-level set of capabilities that we're going to be able to bring to the table here at Vectra.
Awesome.
Yeah, and what I would if I could put a bow on that, because I agree with everything Marty just said fully. is this is all being delivered on a native AI platform, right? Ultimately, if you're going to address this end-by-end problem that I was describing earlier, right? This is well beyond what a team of people can do alone. No matter how sophisticated software it is they're utilizing, you need to utilize AI at its max. And I think given our pioneering work that we've done, embedding AI into the SOC and with the platform we deliver, everything Marty just described is being done again on the foundational AI platform that we've built. And for customers to deal with this end-by-end problem and do that in a way that is, again, cost-effective, rather than just being effective, you need to have AI at your side to go do that as well. And I think that ultimately gives us the competitive advantage, and most importantly, allows our customers to have the field advantage when they are dealing with advanced cyber attacks.
Awesome. Guys, this is great. I couldn't have summed it up better. You heard it. Tool consolidation, I think Marty said. Like 3 things: tool consolidation, platformization, whatever you want to call it, predictive, shifting the paradigm from, to NDR even being purely a reactive to being a proactive, predictive solution for the SOC. 3, fully integrated platform built for resilience, pre and post compromise, all enabled by AI.
Correct.
Awesome.
That's it. Nailed it.
Sweet.
That's it.
I got my product marketing pitch. I'll work
There you go.
I'll work on the slides.
All right.
Great. Hey, Marty, Hitesh, thank you. This was awesome.
Yeah. Thank you,
to have you
Boj.
back
Thanks,
on.
Marty.
Yeah,
Everybody
thanks, guys.
comment, like, share, throw ideas at us, debate. We love to debate, right?
Yep.
Healthy conversation. So Marty, Hitesh, thank you so much. We'll see you
Thanks,
on the
Boj.
next one. Thanks, everybody.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks,
Take
Jeff.
care.
All right.